guys, how y'all doing? You're welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned in my natural hair care journey. So please stay tuned and keep watching. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to moisturize properly. When I first went natural, I thought that moisturizing meant I should just take some oil and apply all over my hair. So oil would be something like hair grease, like Blue Magic or hair or Sulfur 8, right? I'll take that and I'll apply it all over my hair, and to me that was moisturizing. But over time I learned that that is not the proper way to moisturize. In order to moisturize properly, you first of all have to infuse your hair with moisture. So there has to be water in your list of products as a first step. So it can either be water or water mixed with leave-in conditioner that you put in a spray bottle and spritz on your hair. Or in my case, I use aloe vera juice. I put it in the spray bottle, mix it with glycerin, and I spray it on my hair. So that's the first step in my moisturizing process. And after that, I follow up with a cream-based product like this. And then I seal up the moisture with an oil or a butter of my choice. And that oil or butter can be something like shea butter, or it can be hair grease, the hair grease that I mentioned before. But the hair grease now is meant to seal in the moisture to ensure that you retain that moisture for much longer. If you just go in with an oil or a butter in the name of moisturizing, that is no moisturizing at all. You will notice that your hair just feels dry immediately after and greasy. So moisturizing properly, you remember that you have to start with some water and then seal up the moisture with an oil or a butter. The second thing that I've learned in my natural hair care journey is that deep conditioning is very important. Deep conditioning means that you apply a deep conditioning treatment, right? So it's a conditioner, but it's actually meant to sit in your hair for much longer. So you apply it on your hair and you sit let it sit for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes, or depending on what the container says, right? I mostly use store-bought deep conditioners. I apply on my hair, I comb through, and I apply some heat. So by wearing a deep conditioning cap or sitting under a hooded dryer. I don't have a hooded dryer, I just use a deep conditioning cap. If you don't have a deep conditioning cap, you can just tie a plastic bag on your head and do chores around the house for a while, giving the product time to penetrate into your hair strands before you rinse it out. Over time, I've realized that deep conditioning has really helped my hair to be soft, more malleable, more manageable. When I first went natural, I used to think that my 4C hair was strong. I even described it as such, but over time, I've realized that my hair is more manageable and just really softer to the touch. And I credit all of that to deep conditioning. So the third thing that I want to talk about is protein treatments, right? You might have heard people talk about this. Protein is when you infuse your hair with, I think it's the protein bonds that make up your hair. Sometimes they get weakened over time due to manipulation or exposure to the elements. And doing a protein treatment enables your hair to regain, your hair strands to regain that strength, to make them less prone to breakage. And, so I talked earlier about deep conditioning being important, but you might realize that your hair is overly conditioned, especially people who have high porosity, that your hair is like really soft and prone to breakage. So you want to counterbalance the deep conditioning with protein treatments. For someone like me, I'm on the low porosity spectrum, so I don't really do protein treatments that often, but I'm always monitoring my hair because I've heard people talk about hair being like mushy or soft or breaking off easily, and you realize that that's because your hair doesn't have enough, it needs some protein treatment. So that's something to watch out for, especially if you have high porosity, So you want to make sure that you're really striking that balance between moisture and protein, okay? The fourth thing that I've learned is that protective styling is very important, right? So what is protective styling? Protective styling is typically when you put your hair away in a style. It could be braids or twists or crochet or, I don't know, cornrows, whatever, or just wearing wigs like I'm currently doing. I tie headscarves. I have a flat twist underneath this scarf. So I just wear wigs or I tie a scarf when I'm going out. So that's a protective style because you're putting your hair away and not exposing it to the elements. But in order for protective styles to be effective and really work at protecting your hair, you have to make sure that you're doing it right? Because contrary to what a lot of us believed growing up, you don't have to actually braid your hair or plait it in order for it to grow. Your hair is always growing either way, just like your nails. Like your nails are growing. You don't have to do anything for your nails to grow. right? I hear there's some things that you can do to fasten your hair growth, but the hair is always going to grow at its own rate. It might not grow as fast as the next person's hair, but it's growing at its own rate, based on your genetics. So what you're doing with the protective style is that you're protecting the hair so that it's not breaking off as it's growing. So you're trying to retain as much of your length as possible. If your hair is not in a protective style, you're constantly manipulating it, trying to comb it, put it in this style or do this or that. That's causing your hair to break off over time. And as you're losing that length, you end up feeling that your hair is not growing, but it's growing, right? So you also want to make sure that you're doing the protective style right. Do the right things before you install your protective style. Make sure that your hair is clean, that it's properly moisturized when installing the style. Make sure that the style is not too tight. I've been a victim of tight styles. My hairline has not recovered. So you have to be really careful with how you do the protective style. And when you have the protective style, are you moisturizing? If you have braids on, you still need to moisturize your hair with the braids on. Spritz the water mixture, seal it with some oil, every now and then. Don't just put your hair in a protective style and forget about it, as most of us do, right? You have to make sure that you're still taking care of the hair in the protective style so that you can reap the benefits. So the fifth thing I want to talk about is hair trims. Hair trims are very important, as I've come to learn over time. When I first went natural, I didn't want to cut my split ends because I was holding onto them so badly. I thought that cutting my split ends meant that I was compromising my goal of letting my hair grow. But the truth is, over time, with manipulation and everything, being exposed to the elements, the ends of your hair will tend to suffer a lot more damage than the newer parts of your hair. Over time, the very ends of your hair start looking rough. They start looking, you see the split ends, it's not looking as smooth as the hair in the middle. And so you want to just, trim a little bit of those ends over time, and not let them, continue to hang in there. Not only does it look more pleasing when your ends are a lot smoother, but I've heard that it also prevents the split ends from becoming worse over time, right? But also you want to be careful how you trim. You don't just want to go crazy and cut off everything, because then your hair only grows to a certain degree every year. So let's say you're cutting off so much, then at the end of the day, what's left? You're just cutting off, like you grow hair and then you cut it off at the end. So at the end of the day, it's like you're not having any hair left. Like you're not retaining your length because you're cutting it all off. So yes, trim your hair every now and then, but don't go crazy. So the sixth thing I want to talk about is that it's important to have a simple regimen and just stick to it. A lot of people, when they go natural, they complain that it takes so much time, which it does, and that it takes so much effort, which it does, right? But the truth to really enjoying your natural hair care journey, I've come to learn, is that you need to embrace your hair, embrace all the things that you need to do in order to make your hair flourish. You know that you have to wash your hair. Maybe your hair loves to be washed every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. You install a protective style, then you take it down gently, do a wash, deep condition, install another protective style. So you have a regimen, you stick to it, Your hair is always growing either way. All you're doing is just making sure that you're keeping it protected so that it's doing its job on the back end, right? It is not that complicated, really, the way some people make it seem. It doesn't have to take you the whole day. It's just that when you do it over time, you start to enjoy it a lot more and it's easy for you. So a simple regimen, you stick to it, and then you find that you don't have any problems over time. So the next thing that I want to share with you is the importance of avoiding heat in your natural hair. And this is something that is important for especially those of us who have a goal to grow our hair long. Yes, we do have a goal to grow our hair long. So we want to keep our hair protected. We want to make sure we are retaining all that length that we're growing, because we know that the hair is growing. Even if it's not growing as fast as the next person's hair, it is growing. You just want to make sure that you're keeping that length on your head. And one of the ways to do that is to avoid heat. So avoid all unnecessary blow drying. Avoid unnecessary, doing a flat iron. It's good if your goal is just to enjoy all the possible hairstyles you can do on your hair. That's fine. Go and do the heat all the time. But if you want your hair to grow, you cannot afford to do a lot of heat. And even if you want to apply heat, you want to make sure that you're applying a heat protectant and using very low heat settings so that you don't damage your hair. But important, don't do it too often. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, which is very obvious, but I'm sure many people still neglect, is the importance of wearing a silk bonnet when you go to bed. When you go to bed, you want to wear a silk bonnet to protect your hair from, some people use cotton pillowcases. Cotton has the tendency to soak up the moisture from your hair. So you don't want to expose your hair when you're going to bed. If you don't want to wear a silk bonnet, you can buy a silk pillowcase or a satin pillowcase to lay down on. That's what I do for my girls, because sometimes the bonnet doesn't stay on. So it's important to do that just so that you ensure that your hair is protected when you're going to bed. So those are the things that I've learned that have really served me well in my natural hair care journey. And I'm hoping that if you're not yet applying these tips, that you might also benefit from applying them in your natural hair care journey. Please let me know in the comment section if there's other tips that have helped you that you want to share with us. And if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.